mentioned in the previous video that we want to fit a large rear diffuser underneath the back of this car. And as is common with most cars, there's a couple of things in the way. The first, which is so with nearly every car, is it has a deep recess wheel well for carrying the spare wheel, which is obviously not needed in a race car. The second thing, in this particular case, is on the driver's side of the car, to balance that wheel, is the petrol tank, and it goes down below the floor. Both of those things are in the way of being able to maximise the height, the thickness if you like, of our rear diffuser. It amazes me how many race guys build diffusers and they just work around all the factory stuff that's hanging down at the back of the car. With a purpose-built race car, why wouldn't you get rid of what you can that's getting in the way of you making your rear diffuser as big as you can? And so that's what we're going to do. We'll take the fuel tank out and we'll fit some other one. We'll get rid of the spare wheel well. That'll leave a great big hole here. I'll fiberglass that in, so the boot of this floor, the floor of this boot will be fiberglass, and that will allow us to build a rear diffuser that will really work. Once your race car is more than 20 years old, let alone 50, it becomes virtually impossible to find fiberglass panels for it at all, let alone ones that take into account today's styles, rules, and the aerodynamic performances. So most guys in that position will try to find something off another car that fits. But the problem with such grafted bits off other cars is they always look like that, and your petrol head mates can always spot what you've pinched them off. But in this Bellet Revival series, I'm showing how you can sculpt your own and end up with something unique and true to the style of the original car. The client on this job has the usual collection of spare original factory panels and bits off other cars that could be Frankensteined on, but I'm not going to use any of those. But instead, I'm going to build a new front end from scratch that's true to the original and that meets today's race rules and aerodynamic principles. And I'm going to use timber, tin, and carbog. There are two secrets to be able to do this. When fiberglass is laid, it is a wet cloth, wet with the resin. And with overhanging parts of the car, like the underneath the bonnet where this grill opening is, the fiberglass will just fall down. So here's my first secret. As you design and sculpt the front of your car, you've got to be able to make it so that you can take it off and turn it 90 degrees with the grill opening facing skywards. That way the cloth will fall down onto the job rather than off it. My second secret, if your sculpture is part of a one-piece front end, you've got to include flanges coming out that will bolt the two halves of the mould together. The front air dam and grill bolted to the bonnet and the guards. So you've got to add flanges to allow that to happen. I'm going to add a flange going underneath where the bonnet goes over here and protruding out about 25 mil or an inch. And then I'm going to continue that flange around the headlight and then back out across, slicing the guard in half there. So that's where my flange will be to bolt the two halves together, and I've got to incorporate that flange in as I sculpt and make this front clip. In making this timber frame, I have studied the standard car front here and down through here. And I've had to do a lot of adjusting with this timber to get things square and level and true to the original, because obviously on cars this old, things get a little bit twisted and out of alignment. I've started adding an extra lower grill opening here to get the air up off the air dam and into the bottom half of the large radiator that's going to be fitted. I didn't use a factory steel valance here, even though we had one, because it's a fairly simple flat design, and this timber will be easier to fasten my curved tin front spoiler onto it. I'm always aware that my videos in going around the world go to many countries where there's not much in the way of equipment, and that's why I try to keep things as simple as I can. And that's why, for example, I bent the side skirts just using the car ramps on the trailer rather than a bending press. But with this curved bit of tin that goes in here, this curve is critical to the look of this car. And whilst I could have got a piece of tin and bent it over a drum or over a timber pole, I chose to take it instead to a local machine fabrication shop just down the road and get it rolled properly. And this is what we ended up with, and you can see that's going to work quite well.